Hi, I'm Dasai, and today I am going to be talking about red imported fire ants, also known as rifa. So the topics I am going to be talking about in my presentation are introduction, history, rifa anatomy, environment, life cycle, colony worker types, lifespan, basic needs, behavior, predators of rifa, Hey Little Ant podcast, and references. Introduction. The name of the red imported fire ant that scientists call is Solenopsis invicta. Their colors range from red-brown to dark brown. They inflict a severe sting that feels like fire. Therefore, they are called fire ants. Rifa come from tropical regions like Central and South America and in some regions of North America. History. Rifa were first introduced from Brazil into Mobile, Alabama in the late 1930s. They were introduced to the port in Israel used as ballast in cargo ships. Ballast is used to balance the cargo ships. Today, Rifa infests more than 367 million acres in 15 states. Texas is one of them. Rifa anatomy. Rifa can be identified by their body with ranges from reddish brown to dark brown. Fire ants have elbowed antennae. As you can see in the picture, the antennae are elbowed. Rifa are 1.6 to 6.0 millimeters in length. They are very small. And here is a picture of how small red imported fire ants can be. Environment. Rifa build mounds that are made of soil. Undisturbed mounds and pastures can be up to 18 inches tall. And here is a mound that was built in an open field. Mounds in our yards grow only a few inches tall. Mounds have no opening in the center like most ant mounds. Rifa leave and enter the mound through underground tunnels. This is one way to identify if you have rifa in your yard. Rifa may nest under patio slabs, in lawns, the edges of sidewalks, foundations, concrete driveways, and electrical boxes. Life cycle. Now let's watch a video about the rifa life cycle.
Hi, and here's the model of a rifa life cycle. A complete rifa life cycle is 22 to 38 days. A winged female from a mound mates with a winged male. The male immediately dies after mating. The mated female, called a queen, now sheds her wings and burrows into the soil to lay her eggs. She will lay about a dozen eggs, both fertilized and unfertilized eggs. And here are the eggs that the queen has laid. The eggs had 7 to 10 days later, and these are called larvae. And here are the larvae. The larvae stage lasts 6 to 12 days. The queen feeds digested flight muscle protein to her larvae. While the larvae are developing, the queen continues to lay eggs. The next stage is the pupae stage. And here's the pupa stage. The ants are dormant in this stage and stop eating and focus on growing limbs and different body parts. This stage lasts 9 to 16 days. The last stage is the adult stage, and here is the adult ant. The first set of ants that emerge from the pupa are worker ants, also known as minims. The minims are smaller in size because they did not get as much food. They're all female, wingless, and sterile, which means they cannot produce eggs. The minnows start building the mound and foraging. The queen begins to produce larger workers soon after the minnows start foraging for food. The more food a larva gets during development, the larger it grows. The ants that develop from fertilized eggs can become winged males and females capable of reproducing. The ants that develop from unfertilized eggs become wingless female workers incapable of reproducing. Thank you for listening to my model video. Hi.
Colony worker types. There are 3 types of colony workers. Minimum workers, which are small in size, media workers, which are the average ant size, and major workers, which are larger in size. Their description is that they are females and they are wingless and they are sterile, which means they cannot reproduce. And their job is to forage for food, build the mound, and feed the larvae and queen. Female reproducer. How you can describe if this type of colony ant is that they are winged and they can reproduce and become a queen and start her own colony. And their job is to forage for food and protect the mound. And the male reproducer is a winged and it can reproduce, and their only job is to mate and then die. Lifespan. A lifespan of a red imported fire ant depends on the size of the worker. The minimum workers live up to 30 to 60 days, the media workers live up to 60 to 90 days, and the major workers to 90 to 180 days, and the queen ant lives up to 2 to 6 years. Basic needs. Ants need a mound with underground tunnels for the ants to enter and exit. Foraging ants eat dead animals, including insects, earthworms, and vertebrates. Workers also collect honeydew and will forage for sweets, proteins, and fats inside homes. Sometimes they are attracted to dirty piles of laundry, corn, soybean, okra in the fields. And the workers bring solid food to the queen and larvae. Behavior. Fire ants communicate through some chemical secretions and sounds produced by rubbing or drumming one body part against another. When the mound is disturbed, the rifle aggressively and repeatedly bite the intruders with their strong mandibles and sting with their stingers and inject painful venom. The stings can cause a burning sensation and itching blisters that can become infected. It is uncommon, but in severe cases, the stings can produce shock or cause death. Rifle can attack creatures far bigger than themselves since the colonies have thousands of ants. Another interesting behavior is that they form a raft in flooding waters. They interlock their limbs and form a raft to keep from drowning. Now let's watch an interesting video about fire ants making a raft.
Our unlikely heroines are fire ants, a colony several 100,000 strong. Rapacious, tenacious, and industrious, they are impossible to eradicate as long as their queen is alive. But their colony faces just such a threat. The river beside it is flooding. The deluge rushes in. What else to do then but swim? The colony floats out as a living raft. The most precious members of the colony, the larvae and the queen ant, are kept safely dry in the middle. The queen ant can give birth to some 3 million ants over her lifetime. If they can reach dry land, they stand a good chance of rebuilding. But there is danger below. The fish pick off the ants one by one. If enough ants are pulled down, the raft will collapse, and the colony will be destroyed. The ants grimly hold on and reach the other side. They hoist the ant larvae up to dry ground, ensuring the survival of their colony for future generations. And with their survival secure, the fire ants revert to type, attacking every living thing in sight.
Predators. A phlyroid fly is a natural predator rifle. A phlyroid fly lays an egg into a fire ant worker. The egg hatches and eventually develops into an adult fly inside the ant, which kills the ant. Armadillos, ant lions, spiders, birds, and horned lizards don't eat rifle, but they don't have a huge impact on the rifle population. The colony will continue to grow as long as the queen is alive. Humans are their main predators. Many Texans are bit and stung by rifle, which is very painful, so they call pest controllers often to kill them. Now let's watch a short podcast about red imported fire ants.
Welcome to Hey Little Ant Podcast. This is your host, Dave. Today in the show, we are going to talk about Rifa. What's Rifa, you ask? Red imported fire ants. My viewers want to know what I think about these ants. I think Rifa is an invasive species with very few predators and mostly harm the environment it lives in. The reasons we should control Rifa population are: in Texas, Rifa grows in our yards and fields. If disturbed, they will bite and sting anyone who comes in contact. Their bite feels like fire. I'm sure at least some of you have experienced a painful sting and venom. The reaction to this venom can be mild or it can cause shock, and people may have to go to the hospital. Yikes! This is a major health concern, and we also have to spend money to protect ourselves by treating our yards. Rifa also affects agriculture. They damage a lot of your favorite crops such as soybeans, citrus, corn, okra, bean, cabbage, cucumber, eggplant, potato, sweet potato, peanut, sorghum, and sunflower crops. This means it's harder for farmers to harvest their crops and there's less food for us. What a bummer! Rifa also have a major effect on the ground nesting animals in an ecosystem. They attack native ant nests, millipedes, centipedes, and other ground-dwelling insects. Rifa will attack ground nesting vertebrates such as reptile and bird eggs, nestlings, and even adult reptiles, rodents, birds, and amphibians. So now you know what I think about Rifa. I would love to hear your opinion, so send me a message. That's all we have for today. Thank you for tuning in to Hey Little Ant Podcast. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to my presentation. I hope you like it. And here's where I got my information from.